There are two particular areas that we're looking at in terms of auctioning of coal linkages, and also with regard to more coal blocks that will be auctioned going ahead. We're waiting for any kind of clarity with both those two issues, and I think maybe we can hop across to him. He started speaking.
Some of you individually, but I thought now that we are making an announcement for the next round of auctions, I should come and lay bare before you the roadmap for the next round of coal auctions. This is the fourth round of coal auctions. This round of auction will be for 8 coal blocks. All these will be for unregulated sector, that is the non-power sector. And the schedule for the auction is being circulated, but I'll share with you the prominent dates. The notification will happen tomorrow. The bid due date would be 31st of December. The electronic auctions will commence from 18th of January. The auctions will conclude on 22nd of January. And we are hopeful that we should be able to hand over the vesting order to the successful bidders by 10th of March. There are other intermediate dates. If you want, I can share them with you, but these are the broad timelines that we set for these auctions. Using this opportunity, I'd also like to share with you some of the other things that are happening in the ministry. You must be curious about what has happened to the blocks that were either allocated or auctioned earlier. Let me share with you what has happened to those blocks. There were 34 such blocks that were either auctioned or allocated that were in Schedule 2. That is, such blocks where mining was either already happening or was about to happen. Of these 34 blocks, one is in the court. So I'll tell you the details about 33 blocks. Of these 33 blocks, there were some initial teething problems. The central government had issued all the clearances, but in some of the states we had problems with regard to the stamp duty, with regard to handing over of assets. But fortunately, on account of intervention at the highest level, it was reviewed by none other than the Prime Minister himself, and then by the Cabinet Secretary. Consequent to the intervention at the highest level, all the issues have been resolved. Vesting orders had been issued earlier, and mining lease have been granted for as many as 29. The other 4 also should happen soon. It should happen any day, but as on date, 29 mining leases have been granted. Of these 33 mines, 7 mines are already producing coal. They have produced more than 5 million ton. And it is our hope that in next 2 to 3 months, the other mines will also start mining. There are some other developments that have happened in the coal sector, and I'd like to touch upon some of them. You all might be aware that coal production has crossed 300 million tons. It crossed about 3 days ago. This year, the coal production is growing at around 9%, which is arguably the highest ever growth. And this growth is over and above a record production last year, 14-15, wherein the production grew by 32 million tons, which was more than the cumulative production that had incremental production in the previous 4 years. So on that base, which was record base, we are growing at 9%. We are well on our way to achieving the target that we have kept for this year, the target of 550 million tons, give or take a few million tons. Consequent to this increase in production, what has really happened is, today we have an inventory of around 19 days in each of the power utilities. This has also impacted the import of coal. In the past 4 months, imports have been coming down each month, past 4 months. Overall, there is a reduction of about 4.56% over the previous year. In value terms, it is less than 8,270 crores, 8,270 crores as compared to previous year. What has also happened and has gone unnoticed is the availability of rakes. I think I should place on record some phenomenal work that is being done by the Railway Ministry. Last year, we had an average availability of rakes of 183. This year, up to October, we had an average availability of rakes of 205, which is around 20 more than last year. And what is even more encouraging is that during the month of November, we have an average rake availability of 224. So rake availability has really gone up, which used to be one of the major problems in the past. And because of the effort put in by the Railway Ministry and the planning that they have done, we have benefited, the country has benefited. And though the coal production is growing by 9%, the offtake has grown by 9.8%. So a lot of inventory that we had at the pit heads is coming down in terms of the more rakes going out. There have been issues raised, and people have said that the imports have come down on account of reduction in demand. I'd like to place on record that the demand has not come down. Demand for coal has not come down. It has gone up. But perhaps not at the levels at which some people may have imagined the demand to grow. In fact, in the month of September, the electricity production grew by 10.8%. This required coal, and coal was supplied. So the reduction in import is primarily on account of improvement of production in coal in India. There are certain other issues that I'd like to share with you. One is with regard to our commitment to improving the quality of coal that gets supplied by Coal India. There have been issues in the past with regard to quality of coal. So we took a decision to ensure that coal is crushed to the requisite levels before it is transported. And from 1st of January 2016, all coal will be crushed to that level before it is transported, except where you have a pithead plant that does not require such crushing. The second important decision that has been taken is in terms of setting up of washeries. Coal India is well on its way to set up 15 additional washeries. These washeries, the primary objective is to ensure that every ounce of coal that belongs to a grade above G10 is washed before it's transported, both in terms of keeping the environment clean, also in terms of improving the GCV of this coal. There are a few other things that are happening. As you might be aware that we are working towards rationalization of coal linkages. A study had been conducted by KPMG, and now the implementation has begun. I'd like to inform you all that so far, rationalization has been done for 19 thermal coal plants. This is resulting in an annual saving in transportation cost by 1,423 crores, 1,423 crores, because it will impact the movement of 21.4 metric tons. This was basically rationalization in terms of distance. We are now also considering rationalization in terms of efficiency, and let me explain that to you. By efficiency, we mean that if a plant converts a kg of coal into more units of electricity, we are considering whether linkages of inefficient plants could be diverted to efficient plants so that more electricity could be generated from same quantity of coal. This is a major step that we are taking, and this would be a part of the Uday package that has been announced by Government of India in terms of revival of the DISCOMs. In that context also, I'd like to make a few submissions. We are also considering allocation of linkages to the states so that they can seek bids on tariff on that linkage. So in future, perhaps that, and that's the thought process of the government, that instead of allocating linkage to a plant, the allocation gets to the state, and in the same manner as in case of case 2 bidding, they will seek tariff on that linkage so as to bring down the cost of power for DISCOMs, which will help them in the package that they are preparing under Uday. Under Uday, yet again, we have identified a few blocks that would be allocated to such states that prepare that package, so that those blocks could again be auctioned on the basis of case 2 bidding, thereby seeking a lower tariff. All these efforts of the Coal Ministry will improve or reduce, so to say, the cost of power that is available to DISCOM, and thereby enabling them to prepare a package for Uday. There are other steps also. Maybe in due course, I will share those thoughts with you. I will now repeat some of these points that I've made for the benefit of those that want in Hindi. पूर्व में किए गए कोल ऑक्शंस के अनुरूप आज चौथी श्रृंखला में सरकार 8 कोल ब्लॉक्स का ऑक्शन आरंभ.
All right, then some details coming in there from the coal secretary. Actually, we had him just a few days ago, so quite a few of those details we did know. He said that in fact the fourth round of coal mine auctions will start in January 2016. They'll be held from 18 January to around 22nd January. 8 coal blocks will be auctioned. That's for the unregulated sector. In all, he said 34 mines were already auctioned, and in fact 33 mines are already producing. Out of that, 33 mines are on course to produce. 7 mines are already producing. They've already produced around 5 million tons so far. And going ahead, he's looking at production coming in from there. In addition to that, he's told us as well that Coal India is ramping up production quite well. Availability of coal has increased, and he says that demand is not going lower. In fact, production is catching up, and that's why, in fact, there is talk that there is uncalled for talk of with regard to coal demand going down. Also, rake availability has improved, so that's a big positive for Coal India. Coal India is not moving higher because we have that OFS overhang on it, but rake availability has been the biggest problem, Rima, for the last 4 to around 5 years. I remember the rake availability just around 4 years ago was at around 160, 165 odd, and now he's saying that for the month of November, it's at around 224 rakes per day. That's a fairly big positive as well. In addition to that, Rima, he's saying that 224 rake availability is what we're having right now. Remember, for Coal India to achieve the 550 million tons odd, they have to go at a run rate of around 49 to around 50 million tons odd. Currently, they're hovering around that 43 to around 44 million tons. Dispatches were always a problem, not production. Now, dispatches have outweighed production, which is definitely a positive for the stock. And he also stressed that they're looking to give more amount of power, more amount of linkages to the state discoms, and also focusing on making power cheaper. So that should be a bit of a positive for the power-related companies as well. However, I was waiting for some kind of commentary on the linkages that he was going to take away from the unregulated sector, and in fact tell them that now you have to go and buy it at higher prices. I don't think that really came about.
No, only on, I think, on the function of linkages. He spoke about rationalization of coal linkages, not purely on distance, but also on efficiency. So whereby the company will be doing the allocation of linkages to state, and then the states will conduct an auction and get the lowest, perhaps the lowest, bidder in terms of tariffs. So that will also help in the discoms, lower, at least lower rates for discoms. So it should be positive for them. But even on the subject of rakes, if you remember, he told us an average of 183 in FY16. The October average went up to 205. November is even higher to 224. And I remember very clearly he said that, he expects it to go up even further up to 235. But that's on the coal Secy, what he had told us 2 days ago. Let's get in a reaction. Pritesh Shani, the Director of Institutional Research at Religare Capital Markets, joins us on the phone line from Mumbai. Hi, Pritesh, your initial reaction and, what would be the key takeaways?
Hi, Rima. Yeah, so it's a good set of numbers that the coal secretary presents in front of us, and basically the auctions which have gone by, those 34 blocks which were put up for auction, I think only 6 or 7 of those mines have kind of started to produce. So it's taking time. Some teething problems are there, but overall I think India is set to see coal surplus over the next 4 to 5 years. So it's a well done job that he's done so far. But given current status, wherein it's taking time for coal mines to ramp up, whereas at the same time, so much of production has happened, the pressure is seen on the other side for Coal India, wherein we are seeing its e-auction prices kind of sliding down.
All right, let's get in Piyush Jain as well into this discussion. Piyush, you heard what the coal secretary had to say. He's sounding very, very positive in terms of Coal India's production numbers. Inventory is going down, rake availability is going up. Prices are going to be under pressure. What's your take?
I think prices are going to be under pressure. That's a well-known fact, because the international prices, the outlook for international prices remains subdued, I think, for the next 2-3 years at least. So what it means is lower realization for e-auction, definitely. But because I don't see any immediate improvement in the infra basically for the offtake infra, which means that for the next at least 1 year, the e-auction volume should remain high. So I think the volumes are going to offset the lower realizations. But I think as we move towards FY18, I think those more railway connectivity projects are going to actually increase the volume substantially. So I think Coal India, the larger story is volume growth. So far what we have been hearing that the railway project seems to be on track. And if the rake availability, which is very important, so that was I think very heartening to hear, that rake availability is improving and then they are setting up washeries, then that will be very good. So overall I think the story looks promising so far. And I think investors should keep an eye more on the volume growth because margins, there will be some moderation. Historically, the margins were higher because there were high international coal prices, so higher realizations. But now the story will be lower realizations, but higher volume growth. So it's more about volume. And I think overall, rest apart from that, I think the coal auctions, I think it's still some quarters away before the non-regulated players are going to get those blocks. So I think that development is still some time away. And that sector still remains under stress. So perhaps over the next 2, 3, 4 years, imports are continuously going to decline. But for Coal India, I think volumes are going to continuously go up.
Okay. By the way, Coal India stock has recovered close to about 1.5% from the day's low. So let's pull up the intraday chart. It's moderating now once again, but from the lows, there has been a fair amount of recovery. Chintan Mehta, the metal analyst at Sunidhi Securities, joins in now. Chintan, come in on the point that our earlier speaker was making. You know, in Q2 for Coal India, we saw the volume growth fairly strong, but the pricing pressure was far more than what the street was anticipating, and the stock was under pressure. Now, going by the strong production that the coal sector is targeting for Coal India, you know, at least for the next few years, it's quite likely that volumes will be robust, but pricing will be under pressure. What should the street focus on? Because in Q2, you know, it was the pricing pressure which disappointed the street more than the volume, you know, despite the volume growth looking fairly good.
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon. It's something a tricky situation for investors where they try to control P and Q price into quantity very frequently. But one need to understand that this volume growth has been missing for so many years, and which we have been pushing. Last 5 years we are seeing a moderate 2%, 3% volume, sometimes even a flat volume growth. This is the year where we are seeing a double-digit volume growth in terms of offtake and production is concerned. So that is more important. Definitely, there will be pricing when auction is concerned. But again, here I would like to point out is that the whole linkage auction is a key to be watched out, because even that section will bump up revenues and margins for the company, because the company is trying to push 30-40 million tons in terms of linkage volumes, which will be auctioned again. Yeah, and still we have a 400 rupees gap in FSA prices and linkage prices. So still there is enough of them actually. If the companies try successfully auction those linkages, you might see a good jump in EBITDA, in absolute EBITDA as well.
All right. Thanks so much, Chintan. Thanks so much, Piyush, as well as Pritesh for joining in. So, no big blockbuster announcement coming in there, but clearly Coal India stock is reacting positively because the Coal Secretary, as has been the case this year, he's pretty confident. 550 million tons are there for the taking. Production as well as sales numbers will be met. Slip into a short break, come back. We'll continue focusing on the